Do you have a jar of kimchi sitting in the fridge right now that's getting just a little too sour for your liking? Well, today I'm going to show you how to make a delicious, crispy Korean kimchi pancake that is so good. We're using our guaranteed crunch technique to get a perfect Korean pancake. I wouldn't be surprised if you used up your entire jar on just making these crispy Korean kimchi pancakes. So let's get started. First, we're going to need some kimchi.
What the hell? What the? How did he do that?
Oh yeah, all self-taught, baby. Kiss my Akio, Harry. Anyway, we're using some old sour kimchi for this recipe, and it's traditionally used for these kinds of pancakes because the sourness gets toned down as it cooks and it creates a complexly flavored pancake, but feel free to use fresher kimchi if you'd like. We also need some miso. Now this is not traditional, and in fact I got a little bit of heat over it on Reddit because I used it in my last recipe. Now to be clear, I'm using this because it adds savory flavor to the pancake. It doesn't make the pancake taste miso-y, and it actually blends in well with the flavor profile of the pancake, giving it some extra savoriness. But this is totally optional, and you can feel free to admit this. What's not optional is hitting the like button, so make sure to hit it right now. Next, we have some kimchi juice. If you're pouring all of that liquid gold down the drain, then stop. It's extremely vital for a lot of your favorite Korean dishes, and on to the ingredients. First is some onion, and the second is a stalk of green onion. We've got flour, potato starch, feel free to substitute this with cornstarch, baking soda, and salt. We're also going to need some club soda, carbonated sodas, sparkling water, or whatever you call it. So if you're ready to start making some crunchy kimchi pancakes, then let me know by typing "It's crunch time" in the comments below. To start, we're going to thinly slice our onions. I'm only using about a quarter of this because I don't want to overfill my pancake, and for our green onion, I'm only using the greens. So I'm cutting off the whites, and I'll be saving that for another dish. Then I'm cutting the rest into 1-inch pieces. Here I'm using about a handful of kimchi, maybe about a quarter to a third of a cup, and then cutting it into small chunks. I recommend cutting it up so that when you bite into your pancake, you don't pull out whole strands of kimchi. For our batter, this is the same mix that we've used in the previous video. Equal parts flour and potato starch, baking soda, and salt. And for our wet ingredients, we're starting off with the kimchi juice and adding the miso, and giving it all a mix so we don't end up with large miso chunks in our final crispy Korean kimchi pancake. Now we're adding just a little less soda than in our last pancake because we don't want the batter too watery. And now our dry mix goes into our wet, and we're mixing it until everything is well incorporated. You'll have some small lumps in the flour, so don't go too crazy trying to get a completely smooth batter. Now back over at the stove, we're adding some oil to the pan. And I know that some of you have some reservations on the amount of oil that's going into the pan. Feel free to use less if you want something a little lighter. However, you may be missing out on that life-altering crunch, so be warned. After our oil has been heating up for a few minutes, half of the batter goes into the pan, and then we're topping it off with our sliced onion, some of our green onions, and half of our kimchi, making something that looks awfully Christmassy if you ask me. And while the batter is still uncooked, we're pressing the ingredients in, then going in with the rest of our batter. Finally, we're topping it off with the rest of our kimchi and green onion, kind of like topping a pizza. Now you could just add everything into the middle, but I wanted you to be able to see what was in the pancake from just looking at the top of it. After a few minutes, we flip and are greeted by this beautiful, crunchy crust. That beautiful brown color and crunchy texture is what civilizations have warred over for centuries, and we've just created it in our own kitchen. And if you're loving this crunchy goodness, then make sure to spread the love by hitting that subscribe button and notification bell because I have way more crunchy Korean pancake videos coming out soon. So after about 3 minutes, we flip it over and voila. Oh, and those black parts? That's just char. Definitely not burned. Are we clear about that? With that said, you might want to shoot for 2 minutes cook time or 3 minutes with a slightly lower heat, whichever one you go with. Just be sure to check the underside of the pancake as it's cooking so yours doesn't turn out like this. Finally, slice into your perfectly cooked pancake and let's have someone try it out.
Oh, itadakimasu. Oh, looks really crunchy. It's so crunchy. I was actually expecting this would be soggy. You know, you put kimchi inside. I thought it would be the, liquid from kimchi would make it a little soggy, but no, actually it's as crunchy as the first one. The kimchi, the hakusai kimchi inside is very crispy. It's too crispy. You can feel the texture of kimchi, but the outside is very crunchy. The sourness from the kimchi. You don't need a sauce. You don't need a sauce. Nailed it.
All right, now it's my turn to.